Once upon a time, in the Italian lands of Messina, a group of brave warriors came back from war. Among them there was a soldier named Claudio, who at that moment didn't know the drama that he was going to face. Then a messenger came back with a great message, and Leonato was surprised.
I learned in this letter that Don Pedro of Aragon comes this night to Messina.
He is very near by this. He was not 3 leagues off when I left him. All in Messina were happy when they heard that extraordinary news, including Leonato, Hero, Beatrice, and the others. But suddenly, Beatrice asked the messenger,
I pray you, is it not time to return for the war or not?
In return, the messenger said, I know none of that name, lady. There was none such in the army of any sort. And Hero, with a beautiful love, knew who Beatrice was talking about.
My cousin means Signor Benedict of Padua.
Later that day, a group of brave warriors made their arrival to Messina. Among that group were Claudio, Benedict, Don Pedro, and Don John. Leonato, with a jovial face, hugged and talked with Don Pedro.
Good Signor Leonato, you are come to meet your trouble. The fashion of the world is to avoid cost, and you encounter it. Never came trouble to my house in the likeness of your grace. For trouble being gone, comfort should remain. But when you depart from me, sorrow advice and happiness takes his leave. You embrace your charge too willingly. I think this is your daughter. Her mother had many times told me so.
Then a couple of lovers and haters were joking about each other.
If Signor Leonato be her father, she wouldn't have his head on her shoulders for all Messina, as like him as she is.
I wonder that you will still be talking, Signor Benedict. Nobody marks you.
What, my dear Lady Disdain? Are you yet living? Well, you are a rare parrot teacher.
A bird on my tongue is better than a piece of yours.
And as always, there's a thin line between love and hate. Claudio was astonished by the delight of Hero. Also, Hero was in love with Claudio. As soon as Hero left the hall, Claudio and Benedict were talking about Hero. Claudio was in love with her, but Benedict, with his humor, told him,
Why, I faith, methinks she's too low for high praise, too brown for a fair praise, and too little for a great praise. Only these commendations I can afford her. That were she other than she is, she were unhandsome, and being no other but as she is, I don't like her.
At that moment, Don Pedro came back and Benedict left the hall. Claudio was describing his passion and love for Hero, but unfortunately, he was so nervous to talk with Hero. So, Don Pedro had a magnificent idea.
What need the bridge much broader than the flute? The fairest grant is the necessity. Look, what will serve is fit, is once, though lost. And I will feed thee with the remedy. I know we shall have reveling tonight. I will assume thy part in some disguise, and tell fair Hero I am Claudio, and in her bosom I will unclasp my heart, and take her herein prisoner with the force and strong encounter of my amorous tale. Then, after to her father will I break, and the conclusion is, she shall be mine. In practice, let us put it presently.
Inside a room, in Leonato's house, Leonato and his brother Antonio were talking about Claudio and his love for Hero. So on that day, Don Pedro and Claudio were talking about how to ask her hand in marriage. A gossip man named Borachio listened to that conversation and immediately told Don John about that.
I came yonder for a great support. The prince, your brother, is royally entertained by Leonardo, and I can give you intelligence of an intended marriage.
Will it serve for any model to put mischief on? What is he for a fool that betroths himself to unquietness?
Marry? It is your brother right hand?
Who? The most exquisite Claudio?
Even he.
In the revealing, Don Pedro asked Claudio ask Hero to dance and talk. In that moment, Don Pedro told her about Claudio's feelings for her and his desire to marry her. However, Don John and Borachio told lies to Claudio. At that moment, Claudio told them that he was Benedict.
Signor, you are very near my brother in his love. He's enamored on Hero. I pray you dissuade him from her. She is not equal for his birth. You may do the part of an honest man in it.
Claudio, with a broken heart, said, "Thus answer I in name of Benedict. But hear this ill news with the ears of Claudio. This certain so, the prince woos for himself. Friendship is constant in all other things, save in the office and affairs of love. Therefore, all hearts in love use their own tongues. Let every eye negotiate for itself, and trust no agent, for beauty is a witch, against whose charms fate melted into blood. This is an accident of hourly proof, which is I mistrusted not. Farewell, therefore, Hero." Meanwhile, Claudio was leaving. Benedict found him and told him about Hero and the favor of Don Pedro to ask her hand for him. But Claudio was broken-hearted and left. Later, Beatrice found him and took him to Hero. Claudio was confused and jealous, but Don Pedro told him,
I said, lady, I think your blossom to be true, though I will scorn. If he so, his conceit is false. Here, Claudio, I have good in thy name, and fair Hero is won. I have brought with her father, and his good will obtained. Name the day of marriage, and God give the joy.
Claudio and Hero sealed their love with a kiss. After giving his blessing to Claudio and Hero, Beatrice congratulates Don Pedro for this wonderful event, while suggesting that she deserves the same happiness as her cousin.
Good Lord for aliens, thus goes everyone to the war but I am son born. I must sit in a corner and cry, hey ho for a husband.
Then Don Pedro offered himself to find a husband for Beatrice after hearing her demands. Beatrice eventually leaves after apologizing to Leonato for commenting about her lack of fortune in love. Leonato then explains the reason for her melancholy. After hearing that, an idea suddenly emerged in Pedro's mind.
She were an excellent wife for Benedict. Oh Lord, my lord, if they were but a week married, they would talk themselves mad.
Then Claudio enters the room, announcing that the wedding will be ready for tomorrow. At that moment, Don Pedro told Claudio closely that he would get Beatrice a husband. Hero, who was there, agreed with the idea too. Eventually, Don John and Borachio appeared, and after hearing the news of the wedding, the wrath emerged from his soul. Borachio, who was next to him, shared an idea to accomplish his revenge.
I can at any unseizable instant of the night, I want her to look out of her lady's chamber window.
Borachio kept talking about the plan, pointing out that its goal is to poison everyone's relationship and lead them to their own catastrophe. In this way, both concluded a villainous plan to destroy Hero's reputation. They agreed to meet with Claudio and Don Pedro in order to make this plan successful.
Wrote this to what adverse issue it can. I will put it in practice. Be cunning in the working this, and thy feet is a thousand trinkets.
Now in the garden, Benedict was thinking about how Claudio faced many challenges in war and succeeded, showing how courage and bravery were important for everything, even in romance. Suddenly, Don Pedro, Leonato, Claudio and Balthazar showed up. Benedict hid behind some bushes. Both Claudio and Don Pedro convinced Balthazar to perform a song, which was successful.
Note this before my notes. There's not a note of mine that's worth the nothing.
After performing a song that most of his friends enjoyed, except Benedict, Balthazar left the garden. Then Don Pedro started his plan to get Benedict and Beatrice together.
Come hither, Leonardo. What was it you told me of today that your nice Beatrice was in love with Signor Benedict?
And they kept talking.
As it's possible, sitting the wind in that corner.
After a long conversation focusing on the fact that the hostility of Beatrice might be a problem for Benedict, the group left the garden to enter for dinner. Amused by this revelation, Benedict stood in the garden for a while, thinking about what he just heard. Few moments later, Beatrice arrived just to meet him.
Against my will, I'm sent to bid you come into dinner.
Fair Beatrice, I thank you for your pains.
I took no more pain for those things that you take pains to thank me. If it had been painful, I wouldn't have come.
You take pleasure then in the message.
Yeah, just so much as you might take upon a knife point and chokes a dog with all. You have no stomach, senor. Fare you well.
Right after Beatrice left the place, Benedict realized that she might be acting, supporting all the ideas that he had been hearing there. Meanwhile, Hero has called Ursula to talk in the garden. Once Ursula and Hero meet each other in there, both agreed to talk only about Benedict and his love for Beatrice. After a while, Beatrice arrives and hides behind a bower, while noticed by Hero and her companion. This was the moment where they came closer to the bower.
But are you sure that Benedict loves Beatrice so entirely?
After a huge amount of compliments to Benedict and some affirmations that Beatrice is a lost cause due to her melancholy, both Ursula and Hero left the garden. A surprised Beatrice wondered about all she had been hearing about Benedict.
What fires in my ears? Can this be true? Está a command for prying has come so much. Contempt, farewell, and main pride. Adieu, no glory left behind the back of such. And Benedict, love on, I will require thee, summing my heart to thy loving hands. If thou dost love, my candle shine inside thee, to blind our love up in a glory band. For others say thou dost deserve, and I believe it's better than reportingly.
Far from the garden, Benedict reunited with Claudio, Don Pedro, and Leonato, mentioning his pain. Leonato then decided to give him some help, so along with Benedict, they left the area, leaving Claudio and Don Pedro alone. Then someone appeared in front of them. It was Don John, who started to apologize for Claudio's fate. Don John asked him to talk in private, and both agreed. Both decided to listen to him. Don John mentions an inconvenient event that will interrupt his wedding tomorrow. Don John then said that Hero was the problem.
Even she, Leonardo's hero, your hero, every man's hero.
Disloyal. Then, in order to support his claims, Don John suggested following him to see the truth about Hero in her own chamber.
I will disparage her none farther till you are my witnesses. Bear it coldly, but till midnight, and let the issue show itself.
Oh, they untowardly turned.
Oh, mischief, strangely working. Oh, plague right well prevented. So, we'll just say when you have seen the sequel.
Outside, in the streets of Messina, the guards decided to patrol the church surroundings, ordered by Duckberry. Was in that moment that one of them heard something strange.